never seen that before.
All right.
The Justice Department
We're back.
was running for
The debate is on tonight, so I hope you all people are tuning in.
months following, leading up.
I will.
Interfere in a presidential.
I don't think I'm going to stream it though, but
which 4 times they're
I definitely will.
lock him up to keep him in
And
orders.
so I'm looking forward to it. So in the meantime,
all of this could have been done a year before.
I'm going to play some more of Agatha Christie
Various courts, but then they're going to be overthrown because
and the ABC murders.
unconstitutional and so inappropriate. But nevertheless,
What you're hearing right now is
was that they wanted to say that he was a convicted felon. And of course, as we know from the
is CNN coverage of
Mr. Biden would have been a convicted felon, except the prosecutor felt that he was
the
so
of the road to the debate.
the American people, and I'm sure the reason the Democrats did it, if they the polling a year and a half ago showed that if
That's them, the talking heads.
that would have a tremendous impact. And so therefore they decided to go ahead and do it just within recent weeks. However, if the American people have
Yeah, 4 hours and 23
what is
minutes
happening, they can see through it. They know
left to broadcast.
that not only did it not phase their support, it increased the support for Mr. Biden or for Mr. Trump because they see the unfairness of it. So I'm going to make that effort. But in the process of
Anyway.
it's very critical to me. It's important that everyone will be registered.
We'll,
everyone show up.
We'll keep an eye on that and head off into the gaming window. And we shall start the game. And here we go. I think we're almost near the end of the game. 92% complete.
That's such a great question.
And 413, so I'm like less than 200 points away from a perfect score of the Eagle points. I doubt if I'll get them. Because I need like, let me see, 487? I mean, 387 more? Well, we'll see.
The other is endurance.
You can never pay for covered car repairs again.
Okay, so what are we supposed to be doing?
$14,000.
Go home.
As a certified mechanic, I always recommend that my
You need to
customers
go
have
home.
protection. You never know when a breakdown can strike and you need coverage that you can. Without endurance, breakdowns can cost thousands. With endurance,
That's all you can do is go home.
even
What
better,
do you have to
you
say
can
when it comes to
you
the
trust.
ongoing situation?
Endurance covers nearly
in
every
Israel
car on the road,
we've
up to
seen,
20 years old.
how
They cover
there
a
have been
ton
multiple
on the car.
efforts to
So,
usher in peace.
It
for
is.
next car
Nothing
repair.
much has been
You
achieved so far.
or
on
endurance?
arrest.
So it was definitely the typewriter. It
Plus up to 4 year of elite benefits. A $2,000
It could be
in a 30-day
the guy that she rented the.
Call 1-800-688-3168
her husband.
now for a free quote.
Who's this? Chase? Hello?
Hi, this is Heather.
Yes.
Hey, you mentioned
The current standing
but
of
we
Washington
can't
has
do anything till the 10th or within 10 days after.
Okay. Why do I keep on getting letters to send you an appointment? And they don't specify when I can.
Where the administration currently stands, because you do have a very heated debate, you know, at every
July
every
10th.
county, so many
We just want to remind you that it is coming due soon. We have a 10-day window from the 10th to the 11th of July.
exhausted for their
Okay, well, then I'll schedule one then.
needs on both sides, and it's,
All right.
it is taking a toll, and I can say it's taking a toll also.
It's the morning, you know.
Jewish donor base here in America. We've seen that
Yeah, that day's fine.
progressive Jewish Americans that historically vote for
Okay.
Democrats. And then because
All right. Bye-bye.
sort of taking a step back and keeping a foot on either side of the fence, that made them extremely unhappy, and so you started to see their pocketbooks slowly close up. So that has actually started taking place. And President Trump's donor base has dramatically increased. You recall when he was in the White House, he actually, put forth the Abraham Accord. He also moved the
Fucking
US
people, bro. They're never specific.
to their capital. So he had
Anyway, so,
big moves.
you can only go home, huh?
Was
All right,
very
let's go home.
Impressive and actually made the Jewish American
To Whitehaven, please.
So I think that President Biden has, in this particular issue, he has to be extremely cautious with the way that he works things.
Cust's arrest is a great success for you, Poirot. It's all clear now, except maybe one or two details.
Details. Ah, mon ami. The devil is in the detail, as we say.
Excuse me?
Patience, Hastings. Everything will be clear once our guests arrive. Best be prepared. Slip a revolver into your pocket before they do.
A revolver? But Poirot, what are you afraid of?
Trust me. It is important you carry a weapon for this meeting. I will lend you mine.
What about telling me what you have in mind?
Surtout pas. You wouldn't be able to play your role. Wait one moment, I will bring you my weapon.
Bring the revolver to Peru. I'll bring the revolver to Hastings. Make Pereira bring you the revolver.
Iran, which was financially growing, now has $300 billion from
Hastings hunting.
Hastings' photo album. He's very proud of his bag.
His bag?
In fact, are talking about how Joe Biden has been seen as somebody who's in fact fueled wars, whereas Donald Trump was somebody
Churston, Devon, population 500 inhabitants. Hourly of trains. London, Churston. Trains of evening. London, 6:45 p.m. Newton about 11 a.m. Churston, 11:45 a.m. London, 11:45 p.m. Newton about 6:08 a.m. Churston, 7:15 a.m.
I wouldn't say that President Biden has fueled wars. There obviously is a geopolitical position that America holds in a number of regions across this world. And what the president has done has positioned our military and our standing as relates to our allies and adversaries.
Well, let me stop in first. You can get some more ego points.
The president has been very forthright in announcing our state.
No?
So I've been hearing
No ego points? Ah, you did. Look at yourself again.
defending our allies and or
Ah, I see.
How much should good car insurance cost you a month? $80? $120?
How about now?
Try $38 a month. So there's a comparison shopping site that finds you lower car insurance rates based on your info. You just put in some information that the site needs to find you lower rates. Stuff like, where you live and your driving history. Then, boom. You get recommendations
one set of ego
directly
points
from the
per
site
episode.
and can receive your quote. I mean, it literally takes 60 seconds.
The white
to see what lower
ammunition
rates
are
are.
blank cartridges.
Try it for
The
yourself.
others are real
How much you
bullets.
can save.
I wonder if you had tried to pick one.
I have to choose the type of bullets to load.
You have the $1,000.
There was a time when I barely knew how to turn a computer.
The revolver is loaded with real bullets. I still have time to choose blanks.
Education is helping individuals, even those with minimal computer experience.
The revolver is loaded with blanks. I still have time to choose real bullets.
Exciting. I love my job.
If it
Okay, so
wasn't
you
for
got
this
blanks.
university, I would not be where I am now.
Pursue a future in cybersecurity at ECPI University. Get started today at ecpi.edu.
Hi, my name is Daniel. Anything on both Medicare and Medicaid?
Daily Flicker, September the 11th, 1935. ABC affair, Terminus Doncaster, Jap and Poirot, arrest the killer. A.B. Cost, is the name of the alphabet murderer. The police have arrested him in a hotel in Doncaster. He was preparing to kill his fourth victim, Mr. Dick Dudley Dunbar, the establishment manager. Mr. Dunbar owes his life to the miraculous intervention of Inspector Chapp of Scotland Yard and Detective Hercule Poirot. The Lancet, September 11th, 1935. General Medical Journal. The alphabet murderer is not psychotic, according to Professor Thompson. In an early issue, we claimed that the alphabet murderer was not psychotic. Our assertion has just been confirmed by Professor Thompson, a Scotland Yard expert, who has spoken to the prisoner at great length. Not all obsessional killers are psychotic, he explained. It is true that Kirst has a disturbed personality and memory disorders. But his amnesia, whether real or pretended, does not alter the fact that he was perfectly lucid at the time of his acts. Therefore, he will not escape punishment. Ah, some cool hair. It is not the right time.
They remove you from being able to attend meetings or attend rallies. And that's something I've never encountered in my entire adult life. But it's happening.
This thing is ridiculous. Oh well, we'll talk to what's his name, Hastings.
Can we afford revenge? Can we afford more authoritarianism? That is not just a life.
What about telling me what you have in mind?
Surtout pas. You wouldn't be able to play your role. Wait one moment, I will bring you my weapon.
It's important to have someone as skilled as Donald Trump, because the media is very committed to keeping him out of office.
My revolver is loaded. I now have to give it to Hastings.
He's never said that he wants to engage in revenge, and they're scared to death. The Democrats are scared to death that he will do to them what they're doing to him. They're fearful that they'll try to steal his money, try to get their wealth, accuse them of things.
Voila, I entrust you with my weapon. It has hardly been used, it is almost new.
When you see these fascist actions on their part, that is interference in the election. We've never had it in America before.
The guy with the mustache.
Being a dictator. And they
to the phone.
want him to deny it. Now, the reason he's smart enough
You're not answering, Poirot.
that if he says, I'm not going to be a dictator, then they've got every headline. Trump denies he's going to be a dictator. Trump denies he's going to be a dictator. And so because, and this is what drives them crazy, because they've got all the networks and they've got all the capacity.
Chief Inspector, is that you?
And so when
Yes. Sorry, but we haven't found anything.
Have you checked the typewriter?
And the packaging, the letter, and the ribbon reel. We've only found prints left by Cust and his landlady.
Well, never mind, I shall make do.
So, are you still going to hold your meeting?
Of course, Chief Inspector. I can hear my guest coming up the stairs.
But you have
Why have you brought us here, Mr. Poirot?
Since Cust's arrest, I thought it was all done and dusted. Miss Gray formally identified him, as well as Miss Barnard.
Yes, and the stockings he saw drove the same brand as the ones found at my aunt's.
This is all true. However, a case is not closed if some questions remain open. And one question is, why did the murderer send me his letters? Why did he challenge me, Hercule Poirot?
Perhaps he wanted to play with you, to taunt you.
Xenophobia? Maybe he didn't like you because you're foreign.
I may be wrong, but maybe by provoking you, he was looking for glory.
All these theories should be studied. Let us now try and get our brain cells to work.
Why did the murderer make a mistake in the address?
Well, first, the media doesn't have to paint former President Donald Trump as anything, because he does it himself every time he opens his mouth and sticks his foot what it is, time after time after time. What we are looking at
Is
now
an envelope with a long address?
are two considerably technically there are more than two options, but right now there are two parties that take over most of the political system in the United States. That's Democrat and that's Republican. But if we continue to imprint and see that independents are rising quickly and all across the United States, that's going to be where a lot of these decisions are made. Regarding foreign policy, America as a whole has always led and always sticking our nose in other countries' business, even when it has zero to do with us. The next president is going to have to set the tone for how we deal with foreign relations, how we access information. As we've known, they've already tried to ban TikTok based on a financial policy. What does that mean for how we do business, small and large? What does that mean with passport access? What does that mean with how America is perceived in other countries? We've got a real bad perception issue, and what happens is in November, it's going to move that forward or further set
the legislative arrival saved the
white men running America. It's what America has seen all this time. But I would say, aren't we more diverse than just two old, mediocre white male candidates running this country? America is so much more diverse than that.
I wish that could also reflect in the choice of the candidates, but it's more and much more than just perception of the United States. We're already seeing how deeply divided the world is, and I'm sure
nothing works on this battery. Hi, I'm a licensed dermatology provider from Curology. Answer a few questions, I'll locate your skin and prescribe you a personalized cream.
Wow!
Curology, skincare with a face.
But it wasn't the first letter that was late.
Our special presentation on the build-up to the grand U.S. presidential debate will be happening in some halls, and now I'm a conscious woman. Now, Joe Biden and Donald Trump are set to appear in the first presidential debate of the 2024 election. The debate will be hosted by CNN, the channels Jake Tapper.
That was the second letter, the strangulation.
This will be the very first time the president and a former president have debated. It is also the first time either Joe Biden or
strangulation
will be on a debate stage since their two clashes back in the year 2020. Donald Trump is known for highlighting his personal grievances at campaign rallies and speeches, including the claims of fraud in the 2020 election. These may impress his supporters but may not convince a broader audience. The former president's advisors urged him to and inflation at the debate. Now, Joe Biden, who's aged 81, has come on his time embarrassing gaffes, mumblings, and forgetfulness on stage. At the debate,
8,200, 8,200
can go against the president in the best case scenario, Biden will project himself as a confident man who has far more experience than any other president ever. On that note, let me introduce my guests today. I'm joined by Republican Congressman Mr. Bob, and I'm also joined by Amy Takagi, who is a Republican strategist.
Why didn't they make a mistake about it?
After a very, very long time.
Yours address is not very well.
Very good to be here.
You know, the first question
the later round saved the murder.
Donald Trump be treating this debate? You know, as I was mentioning in my read earlier, is he going to harp on his own personal grievances, something he's going to address during the election campaigns as well? Do you see that happening, or will he be focusing on the Achilles heel of Joe Biden, which is of course his election?
Donald Trump has never been, so he doesn't fit the mold, and all of the consultants and the observers, particularly the Republicans and the media, they say he and they cannot grasp how well he relates to the guy on the bar stool after work, and as a result, he'll come across differently, and they'll just say, I can tell you now the headline really how great Mr. Biden did, and how he really won. But the truth of the matter is that on Main Street and in the homes across the nation, Trump has the capacity to connect unlike anybody that we've seen. They often refer to the fact that the pundit class takes him seriously, whereas don't take him seriously, but take him literally. And the other folks, they take him literally, they take him seriously. They recognize that he's interested in creating jobs and making America strong, and that he cares about them. But he just tells stories that relate to them and don't fit right into the editorial.
Amy, what is going to be the focus for Donald Trump? Joe Biden's own record or his own personal?
Endurance training. That a brand new transmission and never seen the repair. Any certified mechanic you want. Just bring your comments and endurance, get them direct. All major parts are covered. And if you need a rental car, that's covered too. When I need endurance, stay with it.
I also know that the way that the two gentlemen claim that they had not prepared for tonight is not quite normal.
What I like about endurance, they don't play games, there's no real man. They're a solid company. You never know when it brings down the strength and you need coverage you can count. Without endurance, a broken AC unit can cost over $800. Transmission over $3,000 and engine over $4,000.
As you mentioned, he normally doesn't stick to the normal game plan, and he does tend to veer off. So it's going to be very interesting because I think at this point in time, where in the past, most people have already made up their minds and maybe just went to the debate just out of curiosity. But I really think that tonight is going to make or break it for many of those who are still on the fence and for what they call double haters. And what I mean by double haters is they're not happy with having the rematch of these two gentlemen. So the way that they present themselves and the way that their messages relate is going to be extremely important.
All right. Well, some very interesting points over there made. But what is it that is going to place Joe Biden on the back foot? Is it only his age? Also, I want to know from you, were you surprised when Biden, in fact, challenged Donald Trump to this debate, going by his past record of now being forgetful? He's also been, there have been a lot of attacks. I don't want to be mean about his age, but were you surprised when he actually challenged Donald Trump to this debate? Not to forget the fact that this is also going to be a very unconventional considering we're going to see a former president engaged in a debate with the current president.
It's a very insightful question because
why did the killer send a letter?
It's very hard.
Why did the killer send his letters?
We know that Mr. Biden has literally, he's up against the wall when it comes to trying to defend something. All he can do, he'll have the same shiny object. He'll call Mr. Trump names and say he's a convict. He was able to put him in, try to put him in jail, and he'll make various other claims. So he can't talk about the wall. He can't talk about inflation. And he can't talk about peace and prosperity of the world. And so he's in a real pickle. And so the way that they decided they could get through this is that they would spring the idea of having a debate long before either one of them or even the nominees. The convention's happening. But we'll set it up and we'll make it so
Is everything clear now?
No.
You might like to explain your reasoning again.
Of course. First of all, remember that the murderer made it a rule to always post his letter before the murder. He never digressed from that rule. However, in Churston, he encountered a problem. The village has only 500 inhabitants. With advance warning, it would be easy to arrest him. Therefore, the murderer delayed his letters deliberately with the wrong address. The plan wouldn't have worked if he'd sent it to Scotland Yard or the papers because everybody knows their addresses. The mistake would have been corrected and the letter would have been on time. That is why the murderer chose me as the recipient.
Because for his plan to succeed, it was necessary for at least one of the letters to have a wrong address and get lost. It was very cunning.
Absolutely. It is a very subtle plan. It matches the profile we have drawn up of him perfectly. That of an intelligent, daring and calculating murderer.
But that's not how you describe Cust.
You are quite right, mademoiselle. Like you, I find it hard to believe that this dull character is the clever murderer we are looking for.
Do madmen... I mean, if he's mad, he might have two very different sides.
No doubt. But the murderer is not mad. All the specialists agree that he does not have the profile of a psychopath.
But if Cust is not guilty, how do you explain his presence at the scene of the crimes?
Mr. Clark, the answer to your question is in the medical records of your brother's patients. Documents which Cust most certainly did not have access to. Let us now try and get our brain cells to work.
Yes, each candidate.
What do we know about Cust?
To answer a question. Each candidate.
You know, he's easily influenced. Yeah, maybe. He tries to overcome his jealousy and try to offer me my train. No. Because by his newspaper report on a case, he wanted to see the crime scene. Sergeant Eddie Marnard and Dr. Mark's medical records. This was a door-to-door survey. It is a coincidence that he went to the victim's town, okay? President connects him because he wanted to swim. This was in the war, and has never been quite the same in his head since. He was wounded during the war. The murderer found a way to access Dr. Clark's medical records and tried to return them in order to hide his tracks. What do we know about Cust? He was wounded in the war.
Is the fact that there's no audience.
Was in the war and has never been quite the same ever since. Huh?
There's nobody in the studio. And so I think that's going to be something different for Donald Trump to try to work with.
Bob, how can Joe Biden, in fact, address the age concern? Because, remember, we are already learning of reports indicating that the president is getting his share of training at the Camp David retreat as well. What do you think could work in Joe Biden?
Well, I think what he is going to do, he has 3 issues that he will campaign.
Not to explain Cust's presence in the crime scene.
He'll try to use a little bit of social
he traveled.
Every 2 years, the Democrats against the Republicans are going to steal Social Security. So he'll touch on that. Basically, it's going to be abortion, and he'll talk about abortion over and over and over, even though the Supreme Court has agreed that it has been throughout the history of our nation, except for the past 48 years, was that it was a state decision. But he's going to talk about abortion at every answer, and then also going to talk just the whole idea. He'll bring up racism as well.
That's to explain Cust's presence in the crime scene.
Women, suburban women, and he has to keep the inner cities, the black vote in the inner city, and that's his main thrust. They're starting to move on him, and if they do, he doesn't have a chance. So he can't talk about issues. He can't talk about peace and prosperity because the world is in chaos. And what he's done is destroyed the military. The borders are in chaos, and there's crime across the street. He can't talk about
it is a coincidence that he was in the victim's town.
Fear will be primarily the 2 that I mentioned.
All right. In fact, I'm very happy to see Nicole Smith after a very long time. She's also joining us live. She's a Democratic strategist. Very nice to you, Nicole, for joining in. And as we were discussing, that is also one big question. What is going to be Donald Trump's own take on the issue of abortion? Because remember, it is going to come back to haunt him. What happened in 2022, he will also be remembered for appointing the Justice
People don't have to remember it. He reminds them all the time. He consistently is saying, remember, I'm the person who got this done.
It's not me.
It to be done, and I got it done. He triumphantly puts his stamp on the fact that the Dobbs decision is all him, and he wants all the credit for it. But then,
why is it not this?
Pure Donald Trump, he turns and says something else coming out the other side of his mouth. Oh, it was returned to the states. He tries to play it both ways, but he's not going to be able to help himself to take all the credit on it. And this is an issue that the American public has made clear time and time again. That's a minority of people. This is a very country. This is a country that is enshrining it into constitutions across states. And that Democrats continue to run on and win on, and we can continue to see that happening in 2024.
Maybe, you know what, has to be back to
Not the traveling by train.
Donald Trump back in 1999 that he gave to NBC where he said that cautious, he finds it trustworthy, but he believes in choice. What explains this?
Newspapers.
Nano whole body deodorant. The full product. I'm Dr. Shannon Clayton, the inventor of whole body deodorant. Like Mando, it's clinically proven to block odor.
Well, double speak is exactly what it is.
I think
That abortion is here to
Dr. Clark's patients' records provided a very useful list of potential victims, sorted by alphabetical order. The killer definitely used it, explaining the fact that all the victims were former patients of the doctor. It is this fact that clears Cust once and for all, because he never had access to these records. So how did he happen to be at the scene of the crimes? Either the murderer sent him there, or Cust was following him closely. Cust's highly suggestible nature leads us to the second hypothesis. The murderer was manipulating him. He systematically sent Cust to the towns where he was going to strike, so that the suspicion would land on the poor man's shoulder.
That's evil. What sort of killer could have such a plan? And what would he gain from 3 completely different murders?
Indeed, it seems unlikely that the same murderer committed all the crimes. What should we take from that?
And this topic is really, I think, pushed the Democrats over here.
Say that just one murder is of interest to the killer?
Once again.
Yeah.
Nicole, since you joined the
Say that the killer has developed a taste for murder. The murderer he kills for pleasure. There's 3 murder.
Just one murder was of benefit to the murderer. The others were just diversions. On reflection, there is only one conclusion. The murderer killed once out of interest and twice to divert our attention. This reasoning points at 2 potential culprits.
Franklin Clark. Donald Fraser?
Yes, mademoiselle, that's good thinking. Mr. Fraser may have killed Betty out of jealousy. Mr. Clark may have killed his brother in order to inherit his large fortune. Both have a motive.
But Donald did not have access to Dr. Clark's records.
Please allow me to disagree with you, mademoiselle.
They're also trying to turn into a negative, but he's been preparing, and again, they have set their bar so low that it's just not going to be hard for Biden to clear that.
No, but why do you say that? That the bar's being sent to just because it's going to be debating
No, because they're continually telling you how terrible Joe Biden is going to be and how he's not going to know what he's talking about. And he's going to come tonight and he's going to answer questions and he's going to speak to the American public. And he's not going to lose his train of mind. And hopefully Donald Trump doesn't get under his skin and he, but he's going to be a little feisty. We're going to see State of the Union President Biden tonight for 90 minutes on that debate stage. And that's going to not be the portrayal that the Republicans have been putting out there in the media for the past 2 weeks.
He works for Court and Brunskill, one of whose clients was Sir Carmichael.
It doesn't prove that I went to Comeside.
You could have done it, and you may have used the opportunity to take a look at Sir Carmichael's records.
You think I'm guilty?
You or Mr. Franklin Clark?
That's ridiculous.
Both of you have a motive. The question is, which of you has the profile that most resembles the murderer? Let us now try and get our brain cells to work.
Certainly the one is abortion. They love, the Democrat Party has a bloodlust about that. There are 9 countries on earth that allow abortion up until the final day. That's what Roe v. Wade permitted. And now 12 countries in Europe have a 12-week limit. And that's what many of the states are doing, and that's what Donald Trump is supporting. Moderation where people can have their say. So he'll do that. He'll call everybody that's not supporting him a racist. And so that'll be the standard debate. Because he can't go back and say, look what I did well. So it is sad. Everybody can see it. They can say that he's vibrant, and indeed he can be. We remember that Woodrow Wilson did the same thing during the last 2 years when he was incapacitated. So endure. People can make their own judgment.
Nicole, a lot of political pundits in India are saying that the last card left with Joe Biden right now is to, in fact, bring back the horrifying memories of the Capitol riots. Do you think that's going to happen? Do you see that happening during the debate?
Yeah, I think Joe Biden is going to talk about democracy and what's on the ballot in 2024, and he's going to point to what happened on January 6th and the perpetual big lie that Donald Trump continues to have as a narrative in his campaign. But that's not going to be the only thing. He is going to point to the future and what he's looking to do, and he's going to point to some accomplishments like the investment, the infrastructure bill, and the investments that are happening across the country because of that. He's going to talk about how he was supportive of the most aggressive immigration bill that has ever been. That got stopped by Trump because he didn't want the Democrats to have a political win. He passed executive orders, and now, since that's happened, we're seeing border crossings going down by 40%. He is going to talk about what he has done as president, and he's going to continue to make the case for why he should have 4 more years. He's certainly going to remind people what Trump was like as a president, and he's going to talk about democracy, and he's going to do that by bringing January 6th into the conversation.
Amy, not as a Republican strategist or any particular affiliation, I'm wondering, as an American, what are those issues that Joe Biden is going to be scrutinized on, not just by a dollar, but perhaps by
Donald and Wilson.
Well, I think, as you just mentioned, despite party affiliation, despite gender, despite religion, despite ethnicity, I think most people, all people, are really concerned with the economy, immigration, and healthcare. And those are 3 areas that both gentlemen are really going to have to touch on heavily on how they are the best option to make sure that we are all being well.
Ladies and gentlemen, Donald may share many character traits with the murderer, but he does not have his cold indifference. He has a temper. It is hard to imagine him planning anything. Also, jealousy is his motive, and crimes of passion are rarely planned.
Right, I suppose it's my turn to be subjected to the same scrutiny.
Absolument, Mr. Clark. Let us now try and get our brain cells to work.
by the former U.S. president?
No, I really don't, but it's a unique opportunity. I don't know how anyone can go into this event and not have a decision as to who they would prefer, in that we have back-to-back presidential elections and presidential terms in which people can make the judgment. And it was mentioned that Mr. Biden will discuss about democracy, and quite frankly, democracy is on the ballot. Never in history have we had, in fact, the Department of Justice did not do any movements in anything political in the final 6 months before an election, let alone a presidential election. And here they are trying to lock up the Republican candidate to give him a gag order so he can't speak. We've never seen the on the democracy like we're enduring here. So I don't think that the comparison is to the peace in the Middle East, Europe, and elsewhere, Taiwan, the peace and prosperity that we had just 3.5 years ago compared to the border, the crime, and the chaos that we see now. That's more than sufficient.
All right, let me quickly, in fact, Nicole, I'll have to let you go because Crystal's also waiting. And before I let you go, my last question is going to be about their stances on foreign policy, because not just Beijing, Moscow, but even New Delhi will be, in fact, very keenly watching what their take is going to be on foreign policy. How do you see the differing views between, say, Donald Trump and Joe Biden shape up, whether it is the war in Ukraine or even
I mean, I think they both have made their positions on this extremely clear. Joe Biden has been an advocate for the Ukraine and for funding Ukraine and for defending Ukraine. He sees that this is not just about Russia invading there, but that it has bigger, grander scales that are imperative for democracies across the world to stop. And we have seen Donald Trump sympathize with Putin and North Korea and these kinds of leaders throughout his time as president and since. So I think they're both going to talk about that, but it's the same that the American people have really understood and heard from them on this issue. And then, of course, I can't imagine that the moderators don't bring up what's going on in Israel. And Joe Biden has stood by Israel. It's acceptable to be critical of Netanyahu and still understand and be solid in that Israel is a country that has a right to protect itself and to exist.
Right, many thanks to you, Nicole, for joining me. It was a pleasure having you on the broadcast after so many days. Amy,
as you have all seen, there is a disturbing similarity between Mr. Clark's profile and that of the killer. In actual fact, it is exactly the same.
Mr. Poirot, your psychological studies are interesting, but your conclusions do not add up. Why would I have wished my brother's death? The inheritance is lawfully mine. I just have to wait.
No, you had to act quickly.
And I think it's not the fact that people don't want to make sure that the Ukrainians are safe and that we're keeping Putin at bay. But I think the concern is the amount of money and the checks and balances. They want to make sure that it's
because of Miss Gray.
We're not
Mademoiselle, although you haven't been telling the truth, there is no doubt in my mind that you would have found a way to marry Sir Carmichael after Lady Clark's death. For you, Mr. Clark, it was a disaster. If Miss Gray had children by your brother, you would not have inherited a thing. You realized the danger after reading several letters from Comside, especially one in which your brother opened his heart to you. So you hurried home from China, and you took action. In truth, Cust was no more than a puppet manipulated by the real culprit. You, Mr. Clark.
Such an imagination, Mr. Poirot. In fact, nobody manipulated Cust. The famous instructions he received by post. He wrote them on the typewriter. We know that for sure.
Oh no, you know perfectly well. That is not true. Eh bien voilà, light has now been shed on the ABC murders.
Your theories are ingenious, but you haven't any proof.
One point to him. For the moment, I have no material proof. Either I admit to it, or I bluff.
That Americans are experiencing high prices at the gas pump, they're experiencing high prices in the grocery store and for basic goods and services. So I expect that Donald Trump will really challenge Joe Biden's position on that. Although this inflation problem really began and exacerbated during the COVID years. I also think, immigration, that's something that Donald Trump has vowed that he would fix. And so I expect him to change President Biden on that. But I also think, as relates to the abortion issue that has been on the ballot in a number of states, and even the Supreme Court's recent rulings that came down as late as today, particularly in the state of Idaho, were saying that women still have
Proof is easy to find now that we know where to look.
You have nothing on me. You're bluffing, Mr. Poirot. Come on, Thora, there's nothing for us to do here.
Don't touch me.
Thora!
I understand why you never wanted to lend me your new typewriter, and why you were searching through your brother's things. And the hole you dug on the moors. What did you hide there? The knife you used to kill your brother?
All right. Well played. I lose. The game's up.
Whether it be for sheriff or for governor or for anything in the months following, leading up to an election. Certainly they would not interfere in a presidential election.
Don't come near me!
An effort in which 4 times...
I'll never let you take me, Mr. Poirot!
The special prosecutor, which I believe was going to be thrown out before long. All of this could have been done last year or the year before, but if he's going to...
I'm sorry, Mr. Clark, there is no easy death for you. I expected your reaction, so I used blanks. I'm sorry, mademoiselle, but your second chance has been lost. Franklin Clark will never inherit his brother's fortune.
We know from the special prosecutor that Mr. Biden would have been a convicted felon, except the prosecutor felt that he was being tried. And so there will be an effort to do that. But the American people, and I'm sure the reason the Democrats did it, I'm sure because the polling a year and a half ago showed that
Disappointed at having missed the chance to become Lady Clark, Thora Grey left England.
proceeded to go ahead and do it just within recent weeks. However,
Donald Fraser and Meghan Barnard married.
and they've seen what is happening. They can see through it. They know what's taking place.
On Poirot's recommendation, Mary Drower started to work for Lady Clark. The elderly lady's condition suddenly took a turn for the better. And a few months later, to Dr. Logan's great surprise, she was back on her feet again. According to this eminent physician, it appears to be an extremely rare case of spontaneous remission. Lady Clark has enjoyed very good health ever since. Journal of an Innocent, the incredible story of ABC. As for A.B. Cust, after being advised by Poirot, he made a great deal of money by selling his story to the press. And as for me, and with business booming, the Black Swan has become the #1 tourist attraction in the whole of Yorkshire, even more popular than York Minster.
Yeah, a bunch of bullshit.
And so that's something that people are really looking to his leadership to determine.
Really? She wrote this piece of crap?
So
Gotta look this book up and read it.
Oh,
man.
Does
Yeah,
he alleviate some of the pain?
Either they butchered her story or she wrote a piece of crap.
Many Americans will look at as a takeaway from tonight's debate.
Oh, that's the end of the ABC murders. I don't think I'll be playing the rest of Agatha Christie's games. They're too disturbing. Artifact Studio? Oh, please.
I think it's extremely important, and I agree with Crystal. It's going to be vital with the way that he relates to
Alzamora.
on where the
Sebastian Alzamora.
because you do have a very heated debate on both sides. People are scared. People are exhausted for their friends and families.
Character rigor.
Proceed on both sides, and it's
Character texture.
taking a toll. And I would say it's taking a major toll also on the Jewish donor base here in America. We've seen that at first there were a number of progressive Jewish Americans that historically vote Democrat. And then because of President Biden sort of taking a step back and keeping a foot on either side of the fence, that made them extremely unhappy. And so you started to see their pocketbooks slowly close out. So that has actually started taking place. And President Trump's donor base has dramatically increased. And if you recall when he was in the White House, he actually, put forth the Abraham Accords. He also moved the U.S. Embassy, to their people. He made a number of very big moves that was very impressive and actually made the Jewish American base pretty happy. So I think that President Biden has, in this particular
3.5 hours to the debate.
he has to be extremely cautious with the way that he works on this tonight.
That's a very valid point that you've made about the Jewish Israelis, because Bob, that is the support that in fact has become a strong support base for Donald
Voice
Trump.
talent.
But they are very appreciative of the
French
fact
accent.
that it was Donald Trump who recognized Jerusalem as the official capital.
Voice talent French.
Leadership.
Motion capture performance? What the hell is that?
America has
quality assurance testers, play testers. Why are you thinking all these people? Eric suck. Our families and cats. Figures.
Ready to recognize Israel. It's great progress that was taking place. But it's what happened was immediately when Biden came in, he started paying off the PLO, but had not been getting any money from Biden or from the Trump administration. They began shelling Israel 6 days later. Then they did again to open up the path so that the Iran, which was financially broke, now has $300 billion from their sales abroad of their oil because of the lack of leadership. And so as a result, Iran is in a difficult spot.
And you know, Crystal, many in fact are talking about how Joe Biden has been.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Whereas Donald Trump was somebody who managed to watch even say somebody like a Kim Jong-un in North Korea, he managed to bring it.
No, I'm tired of these point and click games. Let's play something exciting next.
So how can Joe Biden defend his own stance? But if there's something that is actually going for a Donald Trump, is his foreign policy.
Eric, you did.
There obviously is a geopolitical position that America
So are they repeating the credits or what?
across this world, and what the president has done is positioned our military and our standing as relates to our adversaries. And if we have to defend our allies,
Artifacts. I think they're replaying the fucking credits. Yeah, they replay the credits, these assholes. Maybe we'll finally get over them.
All right. In fact, as we speak, I can see Therine Bond, who's a Democrat strategist, is also joining.
I just called and got a guaranteed acceptance, whole life insurance.
When Franklin understands that his brother's inheritance is going to be stolen from under his nose, he decides to get rid of him. In order not to be considered as a suspect, he has the idea of including the murder as part of a series that the police will put down to a madman. Franklin uses Sir Carmichael's medical records to choose his victims as well as the ideal suspect, Alexander Bonaparte Cust, who was seriously wounded in the war and suffers from bouts of amnesia. Franklin writes the letters he will send me before each murder on his own typewriter in advance. He contacts Cust by letter and offers him a job. Cust is convinced that he is working for a hosiery company. In reality, it is Franklin that sends him his instructions, his goods, and even his typewriter. When we receive the first letter, Hastings thinks that it is a joke. As for me, filled with foreboding, I prefer to inform Chief Inspector Japp. Following his written instructions, Cust goes to Andover. He visits Mrs. Asher's tobacco shop and sells her a pair of stockings. After Cust's visit, Franklin, in turn, enters the tobacco shop. Mrs. Asher is not suspicious of the murderer, whom she takes to be an ordinary customer. The old lady turns around to take a packet of cigarettes. She is beaten to death. We investigate the first murder with Hastings. No suspect has a motive. A few weeks later, we receive a second letter signed ABC. Chief Inspector Japp is informed. The victim's name should start with the letter B. Alexander Bonaparte Cust goes to Bexhill. He sells Mrs. Barnard a pair of stockings. Betty Barnard leaves her work. She's dressed to go out. The young woman is strangled on the beach.
I'm getting into my first apartment.
Betty was killed by the man who had arranged to meet her that evening, the seducer Franklin Clark. In Bexhill, Donald Fraser appears to be the perfect suspect for Betty's murder, but he has no connection with Mrs. Asher. 5 days after the Bexhill murder, Cust goes to Churston for his work. In the afternoon, Sauergret turns away a stocking seller. After dinner, Sir Carmichael Clark takes his usual walk. His brother waits for him, hidden behind a bush. The murderer leaps out from his hiding place and cuts Sir Clark's throat. The third letter arrived late. Franklin deliberately wrote a wrong address. In Churston, Thorogray and Franklin Clark are the main suspects. Back in London, Cust is seized by violent coughing fit and brings up blood. He stains his shirt, which later frightens his landlady. We receive the final letter from ABC. The next murder will be in Doncaster. The second general meeting in London highlights the common point between the victims, stockings and a throat condition. Custer's landlady telephones the Scotland Yard to tell them about her suspicions. Cust is arrested shortly afterwards in Doncaster. Franklin had planned a fourth murder in Doncaster. He abandons the idea after Custer's arrest. Cust confesses to the crimes he did not commit. He's an easy culprit. Too easy. Franklin Clark is unmasked. He is the true culprit and the man who manipulated Cust. And there we have it. Another case solved by Hercule Poirot.
Yeah. So, do we get all the mustaches? Let's see. We got all the mustaches. Ah, we missed one. Can you get this one? Eagle's eye. You must have missed something. Oh, we missed more. Medium donkey, large donkey. You mean tomcat? Sheriff's mustache, dolly mustache, black swan, black dragon, dragon slump. Ah, so I did miss some shit in there. Just a lot of shit. Oh well, too bad. We shall not play this game again.
But Charles left his tobacco here. I want you to know. I've got a tobacco store here. Little bits of tobacco all over everything. My
Fix it up. Now that way, that counter, they couldn't say that he denied it, so they didn't get their headlines. And of course, everyone knows he's not going to. These charges that they're making. He has the advantage of having been president for 4 years, in which there was low inflation, in which there were more jobs created than ever in American history, which there was peace abroad. So all of these attacks that they want to come up with, they would land against any other candidate if it were not him. But they don't work with him because we have his experience of having already been in office.
Theron, I'd like your closing thoughts as I bring this discussion to an end, which is going to be, of course, the whole American stance on the ongoing wars right now. Because as much as, you know, domestically there is the issue of inflation, there's the issue of abortion, the age factor, not just of a Joe Biden, but even a Donald Trump. But having said that, if you look at the geostrategy and as far as foreign policy is concerned, internationally speaking, everybody's eyes are on what their policies are going to be vis-a-vis Beijing, vis-a-vis Moscow, vis-a-vis even Ukraine, and here in India, of course, New Delhi as well.
Well, first, the media doesn't have to paint former President Donald Trump as anything, because he does it himself every time he opens his mouth and sticks his foot in it, time after time after time. What we are looking at now is the American people are two considerably elder options. Technically, there are more than two options, but right now there are two parties that take over most of the political system in the United States. That's Democrat and that's Republican. But if we continue to follow trends, we will see that independents are rising quickly and all across the United States. That's going to be where a lot of these decisions are made. Regarding foreign policy, America as a whole has a real bad habit of always sticking our nose in other countries' business, even when it has zero to do with us. The next president is going to have to set the tone for how we deal with foreign relations, how we access information. As we've known, they've already tried to ban TikTok based on a financial policy. What does that mean for how we do business, small and large? What does that mean with passport access? What does that mean with how America is perceived in other countries? We've got a real bad perception issue, and what happens is in November is going to either move that forward or further set us back. Two older white men running America, it's what America America has seen all this time. But I would say, aren't we more diverse than just two old, mediocre white male candidates running this country? America is so much more diverse than that.
I wish that could also reflect in the choice of the candidates, but it's more and much more than just perception of the United States. We're already seeing how deeply divided the world is, and I'm sure Washington can play a very crucial role in sort of, walking that diplomatic tightrope. Many thanks to you, and of course, Bob and Amy,
my
for
wish list
your
coming up.
precious inputs. It's been a pleasure to have you on this discussion.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Very warm welcome to our special presentation on the build-up to the grand US presidential debate, which will be happening in some hours from now. I'm Akanksha Swaroop. Now, Joe Biden and Donald Trump are set to appear in the first presidential debate of the 2024 election. The debate will be hosted by CNN, and the channels Jake Tapper and Dana Bash will be moderating it. This will be the very first time a president and a former president have debated. It is also the first time either Joe Biden or Donald Trump will be on a debate stage. Since their two clashes back in the year 2020, Donald Trump is known for highlighting his personal grievances at campaign rallies and speeches, including over claims of fraud in the 2020 election. These may impress his supporters but may not convince a broader audience. Therefore, the former president's advisors have urged him to talk more about issues like the economy, crime, and inflation at the debate. Now, Joe Biden, who's aging at 81, has come under scrutiny time and again for his embarrassing gaffes, mumblings, and forgetfulness on stage. At the debate, any careless statement or misstep can go against the president and be distorted by Donald Trump's allies.
Let's not wake up in November and wish we had done more earlier. I'm proud of what Joe and Kamala have accomplished since taking office. But Joe will be the first one to tell you that our work is far from finished. Our end of the month deadline is coming up, so I have to ask, will you make a donation to Team Biden-Harris? Can we count on your support? Anything you give will make a real difference. Together, we will win. Thank you so much.
Option for women who experience moderate to severe bladder leakage. This external system uses a soft, flexible wig placed outside the body.
To address during the election campaigns as well. Do you see that happening, or will he be focusing on the Achilles heel of Joe Biden, which is, of course, his age?
Well, Donald Trump has never been a politician, and so he doesn't fit the mold. And all of the consultants and the observers, particularly the professionals in the media, they say he just doesn't fit in, and they cannot grasp how well he relates to the guy on the bar stool after work, and as a result, he'll come across differently, and they'll just say, I can tell you now the headlines will be how great Mr. Biden did and how that he really won. But the truth of the matter is that on Main Street and in the homes across the nation, Trump has the capacity to connect unlike anybody that we've seen. They often refer to the fact that the pundit class takes him seriously, where don't take him seriously, but take him literally. And then the other folks, they don't take him literally, but they take him seriously. They recognize that he's interested in creating jobs and making America strong, and that he cares about them. But he just tells stories that relate to them and don't fit right into the editorial boards as well.
Amy, what is going to be the focus for Donald Trump? Joe Biden's own record or his own personal grievances?
Well, I hope that it's going to be what his strategy is. What is he going to focus on to make our lives better here as American voters, and not his many grievances. I have a tough time believing that he's going to be able to stick to that wholeheartedly. I also know that the way that the two gentlemen claimed that they had prepared for tonight is not quite normal. Where you had Joe Biden go to Camp David to rehearse for a few days, which that is historically normal. But then Donald Trump made the announcement that he was not going to prepare and just take some advice from those who are in his ear and run with it. So, as you mentioned, he normally doesn't stick to the normal game plan. And he does tend to veer off.
I get 3 versions of doom.
I think at this point in time, where in the past, most people have already made up their minds and
Wait,
maybe
1 minute
tune
of
into
that.
the debate just out
I
of
played 38
curiosity.
minutes on
But
this
I
one.
really think that tonight is going to make or break it for many of
I haven't
those
played
who are
this one at
still
all.
on the fence and for what they call double haters. And what I mean by double
How the hell
haters
did I get
is
two
they're
versions of
not
Doom 3?
happy with having the rematch of these two gentlemen. So the way that they present
Nickel
themselves
was
and the
alright,
way that their
but it was
message is
glitchy.
relayed is going to be extremely
The sound is pretty
important.
good.
All right, Bob, some very interesting points over there being made. But what is it
This
that
can't
is going
play
to
because
place
it
Joe
won't
Biden
start.
on the back foot? Is it wholly
Because
his
it goes,
age also? I
with the
want to know
processor.
from you. Were you surprised when Biden, in fact, challenged Donald Trump to this debate, going by his past record of now being forgetful? He's also being, you know,
I
there
don't
have
want to
been a lot
replay
of
the game.
attacks. I don't want to be mean about his age, but you know, were you surprised when he actually challenged Donald Trump to this debate? Not to forget the fact that this is also going to be a very unconventional scene, considering we're going to see a former president engaged in a debate with the current president.
I'll just have to wait until
That's a
Steve
very
brings his,
insightful question, because
the wish list.
debates have become a standard part of the presidential races, and it's very hard
So-
to get out of them. And we know that Mr. Biden
That is all for today.
he's up against the
Until
wall
next time.
trying to defend something. All he can do, he'll have the shiny objects.
I've streamed
names and say he's a convict.
the
He was
debate.
able to put him in,
A little
try to
bit,
put him
you
in
know,
jail, and he'll
live
make various other
commentary.
things. But he can't talk about the border, and he can't talk about
Yeah,
inflation,
so,
and he can't talk about peace and
come back
prosperity.
tonight at,
And so he's
3 hours
real
from now.
petty. So the way that they decided they could get through
Tonight.
this is that they would spring the idea of having a
Hey,
debate long before either
yeah,
one
hey,
or even the nominees. The conventions haven't even met. But
And
we'll
we're
set it up and we'll make it so
streaming
opposite
the
of everything
debate.
that Donald Trump likes. We'll make sure that there's no audience. We'll
Until
let other
next
people turn
time.
off his microphone at will.
Bye.
We'll take the most Trump-hating MCs that we can come up with. We'll take Jake Tapper, who called him Hitler, and we'll use CNN, which is